I believe we are now on live. I see a little blinking light here, and we are now ready to go. Well, welcome to Clear Blue Radiance. I am the podcast host, Brother Francis E. Revels-Bey. I've been a spiritual counselor for over 40 years, and I enjoy helping people such as yourself gain greater clarity in your life and hope that I could help you discover or uncover or redefine your purpose in your life. Now, many times those purposes that we have change because as we evolve, we change. And sometimes the purpose will shift a little bit depending on how we are kind of hooked up to it, how we might be more centered or out of alignment, or maybe we've changed our mind. That happens too. Sometimes we don't feel like, you know, being at the helm of a ship and taking it where it needs to go. Sometimes you could have a crew helping you, and sometimes you're doing it solo. So life is pretty much a challenge. And even when you think it's running smoothly, it's not. And sometimes when you're having difficulties, and there's so many difficulties in your path, sometimes you can't see beyond. Hey there, Barbara. Can you hear me? I got a green light that the mic is working. So glad to see you here. Today's topic is degrees of light are becoming our degrees of remembrance. And that is something I think is of importance. It was interesting that our friend Julie put something up in the text chat about astrological changes, big astrological changes coming in. And I listened just to I think the first 5 or 10 minutes of it, and I realized I'm on the same path. I just talk about things differently. Okay, thank you. What this is all about is remembrance, really. Now, there are various degrees of light. People are beginning to experience what they call light language. Those of us that have grown up in various Baptist churches, Southern Baptist churches, have known that to be called speaking unknown tongues. and so, and sometimes the various ministers, elders, mothers of the churches, and so forth. Some of them studied a lot of the Aramaic and Hebrew languages as ministers, and sometimes heard a language connected to either one being spoken out in a sermon or out in the open around a sermon given by a particular minister. And sometimes those unknown tongues might be heard or felt by someone else in the congregation that can interpret the feeling of it. If people look in, I think it's in Corinthians, Second Corinthians, something that effect. Hi there, Golden Timeline. Thank you for joining. I think it's in Corinthians. I don't really work with the Bible that much anymore, but it talks about the nine spiritual gifts that one will have. Some have a few, some have many, some have all of them. One was the gift of healing, one was the gift of teaching, one was the gift of speaking in tongues, one was the gift of being able to interpret those tongues. Okay, so there's so on, so many. And one was to be able to decipher the heavens, so to speak, to understand the degrees of light that are rolling and flowing around us. One of the things I want to mention here that came to mind while I was putting my notes together, that we have all been noticing subtle shifts. Just recently, there were some earthquakes out in Los Angeles, two of them back to back, last week, I believe. I think it was further north or further south. Then someone said there was one out here, but my favorite good friend, Michelle, checked into it, And what it was an earthquake that happened back in, I think, 2006, something like that, maybe further back. So that person who was on TikTok, and a lot of people on TikTok giving out misinformation because they want to get those clicks. You see, they want all these people following them, but they shouldn't be putting out information like that. So Michelle was able to see that that was false. Okay, because you know, got a lot of young people, they'll believe anything because they're seeking and searching for information. And that's why I don't go on that much anymore, because so many people want to know stuff, but a lot of people don't want to do the research properly, and they don't want to work on themselves. They don't want to balance out the shadow self and the ego. They just want to spit out information and have all these people following them and give out all of these readings, not understanding that they're doing great harm to people. So have been a lot of skirmishes continuously. The biggest one that started that we heard of, that only the news reported, was what? Russia invading the Ukraine. Then we had the Gaza Strip and Hamas and the Jews. But there are more than that going on around the world. They just want to feed us with certain information to keep us well focused emotionally, because they don't think anybody else cares about the other little skirmishes that go on in the world. We also denote health concerns rising again. I see a lot of people out in the street wearing masks. Now, out here, it's the Southwest, so I do carry a mask, but it's not for I think I'm going to catch something. It's because every now and then we have what we call the dust devil pops up. Is a little dust storm, and it swirls up, and you see it at a distance. It looks like a hurricane or a twister, but it's dirt. And when it comes in your direction, it could be taller than you and wider than you. And it's throwing up all of these dust particles. And we know in the ground there's crushed glass, there's oil, residue of oil, there's residue of gas, there's food, there's fecal matter left behind by animals, dogs, cats, and out here, coyotes, and such, so on and so forth. So that happens, and sometimes you do have to wear a mask so you don't get hit and inhale any of that. There have been some other things that have been going on, which is hopefully more of a blending than a disharmony, where people are more and more younger people are studying not just Western medicine, but going into studying Eastern medicine. And also, what's coming back into the mainstream is shamanism or shamanism. So people are going and listening to some indigenous speakers, whether they're Lakota, excuse me, whether they are Lakota or Hopi, which is the more famous one people want to listen to because they seem to have a draw in to be able to know when a lot of things were coming, like the Iron Bird on a track and the Iron Bird in the sky. So the Iron Bird on a track was a train, and the Iron Bird in the sky is the airplane, the invention of airplanes. So we see more and more of that. We also see one time, I think it was up in South Dakota, where there was the pipeline and there was a lot of struggling and a lot of strikes about the government misusing the water rights of the brothers and sisters in those tribal villages and reservations. And that went on for quite some time. And then we've seen these other things pop up around us. But as I say, a lot of the younger people are stepping into holistic fields. Some actually come through families where their mothers or their grandmothers were midwives, and they help, family members and village members and people from the community coming from afar to get help. And these elders could, they could make up these recipes that could help people overcome problems with kidneys and liver. But of course, they had to become certified so no one would put them in jail because we have people that get so excited about people who are diligently helping from the heart, and excuse me, you have people that are diligently helping from the heart, and then you got these people on the other side are angry or are jealous because they can't do it or their grandkids can't do it. So we see these things happening all the time. Some people used to say when I was growing up, many eggs are broken and cracked, and a few remain untouched. Many prejudices, now I interpret that as prejudices remain, yet there is some light beginning to shine through the cracks in the political structures as they begin to crumble. The youth are speaking out and pressing for change. And so we know this upcoming primary to vote for whomever, a lot of people don't want to see Kamala Harris get it, and because she's a woman, they don't want to see, which is like baffles me, because there are many of women world leaders in other countries who have done well, but we see a lot of this stuff going on to try to push us away from help, and but the help is still going to come, because we see in the political news that many men of European background who used to vote for Trump, they left him a long time ago, and they're definitely voting for Kamala Harris. That's what they want to see, a change, a better opportunity. And they want to see peace in the world. Now, also behind all of this, the degrees of celestial light is being released. Now, some people say it's released through eclipses or maybe just the solar uh, emanations, right? And the full moons. I used to belong to a solar rejuvenation group, and I did it from August 15th all the way into December 16th. And one of the things that the head masters wanted people to learn is how to, what he called blinking, like this, at the sun and during sunrise and sunset, and particularly using a vocal chant, a mantra that was devoted to the sun to bring that energy of connection. And I remembered the one that I chose is the one that I've known all my life in my younger years when I was studying Tai Chi and taking Hatha Yoga, and it was Om Namah Shivaya, which meant I salute the divine in me that's also in you. That's what that actually means. And so I had used that. And I went for quite some time. We had to get the sun to blink straight for 2 minutes. Now, how would you see that? You would see that by recording it yourself with the back to the sun and recording it. You don't necessarily see it blink right away, but when you play the recording back, you see the blinking. And it's interesting because the blinking is in rhythm with the tone of your voice or your heartbeat. It's going with one or the other. And people used to think, well, maybe it's just a camera trick. No, it wasn't a camera trick. It's actually picking up on the electronic and magnetic frequencies of the photons. And because you're out there sun gazing in the morning for about 20 minutes and sun gazing in the evening, you're building up all this energy in your aura and in the tone of your voice, in the sound of your voice, in your sight to be able to connect. And so there are many people that connected. But I had a wonderful experience that happened to me on December 15th, 2015. The temperature was like not quite 32 degrees. It was cold. It wasn't above 32, it was beneath, but it was sun out. And I had my back toward the sun, toward the east, catching the sunrise. And I had a hoodie on and all these extra clothes. And I kept chanting, but I began to sing Om Namah Shivaya. And what happened was I got three big flashes from the sun that literally took over the phone. I couldn't even see the the front screen of the phone, but I could see this beautiful golden white light, just like a flame shooting out. This was happening in the ethers because when I turned around, of course, I didn't see it, but I knew it was happening in the ethers because that's why we use the phone. And then right after that, I saw these golden flames rise up on my shoulder and go right up my hoodie. And the first thing I thought, I'm on fire. So I turned around, didn't see anything, looked on the ground, didn't see anything. But what I saw, it was still being recorded. And I recorded it, I think, for about maybe 3, 4 minutes. And I was ecstatic because I couldn't wait to share that information with the group. And it was meant that I was supposed to be an immortal being walking around on Earth. Well, we all are, as far as I'm concerned. I'm just not the only one. I can't be. So I had that experience, and I still have it. Was able to take it from my phone and download it into my laptop. I've just never been able to share it with anybody because I think it's just too intense, and it kind of slows everything down on the computer. So these light codes that we get now, some of it we feel like it's being downloaded into us. And that can be true because when you don't know what you're looking at and you're not sure what it is, you're feeling it, coming in through the crown of your head, into your eyes, into your throat. You're actually feeling that. But if you don't know what it is that you're truly feeling and you've never had that experience before, then it's kind of hard to determine if you're actually having the experience. I would say that I'm fortunate not because of the solar flares that day on December 15th, 2015, but I am actually a successful initiate of the Maha Yoga Society way back in the 1970s, where I received what is called a Shaktipa along with 5 other Tai Chi students under the guidance of my, at that time when he was alive, my Tai Chi Black Sash Sifu. And his guru was able to sit in Austin or Dallas, Texas, somewhere and look at all of our photographs and send this ability to release the Kundalini up the center of the spine. Well, after 11 years, I started to see what they call cells multiplying inside my head, constant sweating, humming and singing like a bird in the middle of nowhere. Had to, like, keep myself on the wraps on the subway. Sometimes I bust out laughing. People thought I was drunk. But these things that I was experiencing was myself being purged of old static energy, old thoughts within my body, in the organs, in the glands, in the bones. And every now and then I go through a surge, but it usually is like every 7 to 8 years, sometimes every 15 years. But I've gone through the Shakti part at least the initial initiation on April 7th, 1977, which is so ironic because my youngest niece, Amira, her oldest child, her daughter, was born 30 years later, April 2007. So we were talking about that on Saturday, how, this happened to me 30 years ago, and here she pops up as my niece's daughter, first child. And I believe her brother, who was born November 21st, 2009, I know some things happened back 20 years, 30 years later involving his energy being out here. So, I say that because we're constantly going through changes and we're feeling changes. Like you see me here, a little sinus congestion. I was clear as a bell all day yesterday. I'm sweating like crazy in my own apartment. I ain't got the air conditioning on. So all these things are happening. I see this as all a part of a cleansing and a purging and many more things. I'm waking up with aches and pains, and then one moment they're gone. So the body is in sync with Mother Earth. As Mother Earth releases toxic, gaseous energies through the soil, we are releasing similar things through the pores of our skin, through our lungs, and so on and so forth. These things are happening all the time. So, what are some of the things that we need to do? Well, we need to eat better. That's something I'm trying to do, and it's improving. Uh, but for yourself, you have to do the research that where you have to find out what works well for you. There's a book, I forget the author's name, but I've had two versions of the book, and it's called Eating for Your Blood Type, using the number four, meaning there are four blood types, and there are four types of meals and foods that those four types of blood should be eating. So, like an example, a person with A blood shouldn't be eating a B blood system. You know, a person who has AB could have both, but a person that has O blood could eat all. So these different things are there. And then in the book, they call it a plus and a negative for each one. Now, I don't remember how the plus or negative goes, but it just says one holds on more where the other releases the nutrients faster into the system or something of that phase. So, these things are there for us. There's also learning how to sleep better, also learning how to exercise better and find the exercises that work for you. There are exercises that you can't do when you are in your 20s that you shouldn't be trying to do when you're in your 70s because your body is different. You have to kind of do it in reverse. You have to do those lighter versions in your 70s and your 60s and your 50s, unless you've been a person riding a bike all that time or going out there and swimming several times a week or playing indoor tennis or whatever. If you've always been active, then it's, of course, a little different. Also, it's proper rest is essential for ourselves. But along with that, and what I learned through the years of myself being able to sun gaze is that it taught me what I had been doing all the time before, and that's learning how to sit in meditation for long periods of time, learning that my intentions are good and they're getting better, learning that I can use affirmations and I could feel the power of the energy of the words that I use that help unlock the energies around my auric field. I could use prayers, my own prayers. I could use affirmative prayers. So not only do I have affirmations, prayers, affirmative prayers, but then I have decrees. And all these things can be and should be utilized in our practices, however we see fit to do these practices for ourselves. The earth is changing. Many astrologers said that on Martin Luther King's birthday this year, January 15th, 2024, we fully came into Aquarius. And now we see ourselves switching friends. Circles of friends are changing. Some are kicking themselves out of your life, and some you're kicking out of your life because you're not on the same page. There's people that you have to let go that can't travel in the same direction that you're traveling. More and mainly because it's not for them, it's for you. And you're the one working on that path. There's some people who want to stay in the shadow of the shadow self. They want to continue to hide and point fingers and tell everybody what they should be doing while they cower down in the back, still doing all the negativity to overcome, overwhelm, and boss around other people. But we're seeing that come to a halt. Why? Because they can't seem to catch up to the people that they had some kind of control over, or they find themselves gravitated towards something else. And usually we wonder, are they going to get hit with karma? And we don't know, because karma in its true essence just means work, good positive work being laid out. It's not really about, what somebody did to you is going to go back and hurt them. And I used to tell people all the time, and I had to learn this. I used to wonder, oh, when is that person going to get this karma back? And I used to sit and wait. And I found out while I was sitting and waiting around, this is when I was in my 20s, while I was sitting and waiting around, I didn't see anything happen. I didn't hear about anything. It's the same as being in school as a child, and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're waiting for that clock to strike 3 so you can get out of there because you've been in school since 8:30 in the morning or 9:30 in the morning. So you can't wait to get out of school, or it's 4 o'clock, right? But you're looking at the clock and nothing moves. The minute you get distracted, and look away, 10 minutes have flown by and is now ready to get your stuff together and get out of school. It's the same in life. We don't have to sit around and wait for someone to get some negative feedback. We just need to keep on getting up, improving ourselves, and keep moving forward. These things are essential. And the more that we work on ourselves, the more that we move forward, the more that we take care of ourselves, and above all else, be kind. To do our best to be kind to ourselves, and not only to our loved ones, but our neighbors when we can, when they're open. Sometimes I find myself out here, people don't speak back, but I don't take offense to it. I just go, bless you, have a nice day. And I'll see them roll their eyes. And then a year or two later, they say, hey, you remember me? I said, no, not really. Why? And they say, yeah, you used to pass me every day a couple of years ago, and I would be in some pretty wicked moods, and I would never say anything back to you, but you always have this great smile on your face. Man, I just thank you for like keeping that up for me, because now I feel better. So, we can affect environments and people and the status and the levels of people at any given time. We just have to keep working on our energy and building our energy up. Now, sometimes these light codes come quickly, sometimes they come disguised as other things. And so we have to sit back and just study them and listen to what we're hearing and try to redraw what we're seeing, and then study it, try to look up a sound, try to look up an image that will most certainly help us out. Of course, when we elevate, the more that we elevate, we start to realize that some of this is not a download. I'll say that again. A lot of these light codes are not down, it's not being downloaded. What we're seeing, you have to keep in mind, is what we're seeing outside of us is what is going on the inside of us. So it's not being downloaded through the brain, it's being uploaded through your genetic structure, through your DNA. There's a time when, like a time release pill, and we have decided before we hit the planet in this particular lifetime, when the information was going to get released, we had to do a few things that which we chose on our own, to do a few things throughout our life, and then trigger for that key to turn a little further inside of ourselves and release these remembrances, because that's what they are. They are remembrances. And the more we start to see the light as a remembrance, the quicker we will understand it, and the faster and the more expansive we shall become. So we don't have to feel like we're working hard to get to the information. Just stay calm, stay centered, work on yourself, love your neighbor as yourself, be there for yourself, and no matter what, keep being you. You might say, well, who am I? Just keep being who you think you are. And also, when you're hitting the prayer mat, or you're doing something that causes you to talk to your ancestors, tell them to pull the veil and show you. Ask those that carry a strong angelic vibe, or the ancient ascended masters around you. Ask them to pull the cord so you can see, unplug the thing on Matrix so you can see the reality. I think the word apocalypse, and Dr. Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith says not something negative. It just means a rising of the veil. And he says, with all the negativity going on, be aware that it's going on. He said, you don't need to walk in where there's people shooting each other, but you need to carry power. You need to carry that internal light of self-love, unconditional love, grace, compassion, understanding, wisdom, true wisdom, and be ready to release that wisdom into your world. You don't have to think about, do I have to release it to the guy at the corner? You might say something to the little child next door. You might say something in sound or feeling to someone's pet. They get it. You just might say it in the ethers while you're out going for a walk or a jog or drive. But you still have to be aware of your surroundings. That you have to do. And if you do your meditation and your prayers more often, you will feel and know when you are supposed to go out. You will recognize those people who are kind and those people who are not. Give you a perfect example. I had to go out early this morning, take care of some business, and then come back. I was waiting at the bus stop. I usually don't go to the bus stop at 7:30 in the morning. I usually don't do that. I go like about an hour and a half to 2 hours later because it's a different stream of traffic. But I was guided to go out. Bus stop is only under a minute from where I live. Got across the street. And people think when I'm standing there that I'm oblivious to traffic and what's going on, but I'm not. There was a gentleman about a little younger than me. I see him every now and then. He's walking his bike, traveling south. So he's on the same side of the road I am. And he's waiting for the bus as well. And he was ironically just fun. We were laughing and talking. He said, "Hey, brother, what's up? I never see you here." I said, "Yeah, I never see you here. That's because we probably come out here 2 hours later." He said, "Man, there's a whole lot of craziness happening." So he said, "That's why I got to change it up." But this is what happened. Someone was traveling north. And notice he and I, of different complexions, are having a joyful conversation. And the person yelled out an expletive that was meant for me, but at the same time meant for him. And he just looked at me and says, ignorant people. There's always a lot of ignorant people. Well, that ignorant guy drove his truck down. By the time he turned around, we were already on the bus. And I had to pass this place called the Fruit Basket. And there he was getting out of his truck, unaware that people, yes, misery loves company. Many people in that parking lot were some of the workers at that place who always addressed me with kindness. So I was walking a little slow because my joints were a little stiff, but they feel better now. And he yells out that expletive. He said, "We don't want no here shopping." What he didn't realize was people inside heard that yell and scream. And he proceeded to walk ahead of me. And I wasn't really going into the store. I just wanted to witness something. And I stood in the parking lot. And he walked in. And this is a family run New Mexican establishment. They used to have 4 of them around town. Now they're down to 1. This is like the first one. And he was met by the manager. And the manager said, "I heard what you said to that gentleman there." He said, "Sir, I don't know who you are, but you ain't shopping here no more. We don't want people like you trying to bring havoc into someone else's life and therefore bring havoc into our life. And whether you like that man or not, he probably doesn't even know you. But from here on out, don't step foot on our grounds in our store again." The guy just walked away. As the guy walked away, I went on across the street. So people never know where your allies or where your angels are. Just continue to do good for yourself. And sometimes you just have to walk away from ignorance because ignorance will consume itself. Keep in mind that degrees of light are becoming our degrees of remembrance. and we will remember more beauty and harmony, peace, love, and understanding than ever before. We are elevating. We are being elevated. We are being purged. So, in essence, his energy was being purged out of my field because I probably have heard that numerous times. He just took it out of my field and he had to take it with him. So, you know, we just keep going. There's some good eggs and some spoiled eggs in the batch, and some eggs that are just plain old cracked. But we have to keep moving on. We have to keep building. We have to keep remembering who we are, and we have to begin to display who we are onto the planet. There's no more hiding the light within yourself at whatever level that you may have it. There are people who can radiate light through their auric field. But I always say, if you're going to radiate that much light into your auric field, please let that light impact the lives of others and improve their life. Don't just be flashing your light and you're not improving anything around yourself. That's my message for today. Thank you for joining me, everybody. As usual, if you have any questions, you can email me at iam.circlegrace1 at gmail.com. You can always check the website for Resident Essentials at www.resonant, RESONANT, ESSENTIALS.com, and you'll see what's going on there. Yeah, I'll feel better. I just need to lay down. I was up last night and I taught class number 9 of the Radiant Heart book, and I did something that I didn't share in the book, but it was a blast and it made me purge. I'm just gonna lay down and get some rest. Watch me some Deion Sanders on the internet. See how the Colorado Buffaloes are doing for the week. Take care, everybody. Be well and be good to yourself.